Welcome back, everybody, and hopefully you've had a nice break. You've been able to visit some of our virtual booths, and you're now ready for our afternoon sessions. And now we're going to have a panel discussions, and I'm quite fond of panel discussion because it's great to hear everybody's tips and experiences and views on the future of fundraising. So our panel today will delve into how to develop your charity's digital skills, how to help you develop your agency and shape your own future of fundraising. I am going to be joined by three experts to discuss how everyone within the sector can improve their digital skills and use those skills to boost fundraising. I will be joined by Dan Such, who is Director of the Center for Acceleration of Social Technology, also known as CAST. Hello, Dan, and welcome. I'm also joined by Iona Lee, Digital Development Coach at Aberdeen Foyer. A warm welcome to you, Iona. And last but not least, Kyle Uckerman, our Head of Product at fundraising platform Give and Gain, and all three joining me today to give insight into the role digital plays in the future of fundraising. A warm welcome to all of you. Brilliant. Hope you've had a good start of today. Have some of you watched some of the sessions this morning? Perhaps you want to share, or Dan?
I'm looking to catch up after
Okay.
all the recorded screens.
Yeah, brilliant, super. Let's get us started. We want to hear from everybody watching this session. There's about now, I think people are trickling in. We are hopefully going to have more than 130 live attendees for these sessions, and I know that many of you are looking forward to it. We're going to run a first poll. Now you will see the question shortly appearing on your screen. If not, you can also find them on the right hand side of your screen in the poll section. And it's basically the first being which of these statements best corresponds to your organization's use of digital. It's always good to start with, taking a step back and understanding where our audience is at when it comes to the organization's use of digital. So in terms of options, there's we're curious, we're starting out, we're advancing, or we're advanced. So very much looking forward to hearing more about where our audience is, and then after we're going to give about 10, 20, 30 seconds for everybody to answer, everybody to join in as well, and then following the first poll we will move forward with first section of questions for our panel. And at the moment, it is looking like people seem to be we're advancing, which is great. 50% of our respondents. And then let's have a look. We're curious. So I don't know whether Dan or Yona or Kyle, you want to already start commenting, whether that tallies with what you are seeing the sector when you're speaking with organizations?
Yeah, I definitely think that there is a lot of organizations are much more inclined to try and get on the wave of technology that's coming. Like from my experience, they're really open to participating in how technology is moving. So it's not surprising to see that a lot are advancing and that a lot are curious. Well, that's kind of that they're coming to be curious. So I think it matches up with what I've seen.
Yeah, definitely. It's really, really great to see that. That's actually the majority are advancing, and some people are starting out as well. So this is really great, and actually that gives us all some sort of great way to start with our first question, which is to you, Dan. And why is developing digital skills for charities so important?
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. And that's a great result from that poll. That's really fascinating.
Mm,
Um, it mirrors in some ways what we found from digital skills reports that was published a few months ago. So it's fascinating. And one thing we know about digital skills and how they're developed is the importance of peer learning. So if you've answered and you see that there are more people in the bracket ahead of you, put something in the chat and hopefully we can find some connections. But why is it so important? I think it's fair to say with everything that's going on, the role of charities is becoming more and more important. It's certainly not losing kind of its importance in the work that the sector does. Um, and we know that charities can operate best when they're aligned with the behaviours and the needs of individuals within their communities. And at the moment, there's so much of a shift around how people are using digital in their everyday lives to find support, ask for help, look for communities for resources. And that means
mhm,
charities need to be in those places to ensure that their brilliant support meets where people are looking for it. So there's the first start that obviously we need to kind of align with people's needs and behaviours. There's something else there though, which is if the communities we're working with don't have digital skills, we know there's a social and economic challenge of not being digitally included. And as charities are, I think they're still the second most trusted sorts of institutions after the NHS. We can support those people who don't have digital skills if we have the skills ourselves, because we're often the first set of organisations that meet with those groups. So there's lots around how we better support individuals if we have those skills internally. We also know, of course, that organisations that use more modern, powerful tools can be more efficient and more effective. And whether that's kind of back-end office work, whether that's kind of modern ways of organising the tools that we use, how we structure our work is really important too, but how best we support communities.
mhm,
There's one other role that's really important, and that charities have traditionally fought for those who are furthest from power, have fought to ensure there are spaces that people can come together. And at the moment, those spaces are becoming more and more digital. So for charities to play that role, we need to be in those spaces, ideally creating those spaces. And that means we need to have access to those skills and that experience so we can continue in the vital work that charities do.
yeah, absolutely, Dan. That's really powerful what you just said about empowering our beneficiaries as well. If we are equipped with the digital skills, then we can share that knowledge with our community and the rest of the people we're impacting. And obviously there are a few tools to help charities with the digital skills. One of them being the digital skills digital skills framework. And I know you've been probably using and testing that framework. So can you tell us a little bit more about your experience and
Yeah,
obviously
for
what
sure.
your organization do as well?
Yes, for sure. So my organisation are not digital's not our main thing, I suppose. We're very much on a boots on the ground. I'm a digital part of a wider organisation. So Aberdeen Foyer, we support people through a number of different things, kind of like as Dan was saying, we're a charity that people look to for support, for training, for building skills and confidence. We support with mental health, we support with housing. So there's lots of different things kind of moving around, and one of those things at the moment is digital. I think it's always been an aspect of what we do. We've definitely kind of been very digitally inclusive in the past and had things like learning houses and encouraged people to access and develop their skills. But just now it's really starting to become our forefront. And part of that for us is looking at our staff skills and developing our staff's digital skills. Because lockdown happened and everything went online, and suddenly everybody had a whole new world to have to explore and learn. And although we're not in lockdown anymore, I think we're still feeling a lot of the effects, and everything is kind of hybrid online. And if you're not comfortable with that, you do get left behind and left out a little bit. So that's kind of why I was brought on board and what my purpose is. And I was really, really lucky in that I got the chance to work with CAST and some of Dan's colleagues and develop a digital skills framework based on CAST's kind of tools and resources that they'd put together. And we got to kind of take all of that and tweak it for Foyer and make it really for us. So we now have this fantastic database of resources from other organizations, from other charities that kind of are leading in that sector of digital skills. And then we've also been able to kind of make our own resources and put them up there. So we have a forever lasting kind of, this everlasting resource. So I haven't actually answered the question yet, which was my experience. And honestly, I could talk about it the whole half an hour. I personally loved it so much. I'm fairly new to this kind of world and this job, and being able to participate and create something like that with another organisation was fantastic, because it's something that you could sit and work away on and build yourself. But working with, there was 2 other charities that were doing it at the same time, and we would meet up and kind of had get-togethers and chat through things, and you learn from them, and the skills, the challenges and the barriers that they're having, and you kind of go, oh, that's a good way of doing that. Oh, I could take that and use that, and just, yeah, it just is eye-opening, and also quite calming, and they're having the same challenges and the same issues. So that space is so important. As Dan said, that peer learning is incredible, and not just for the people that we support with our different charities, but for ourselves as well. I think it's just, that kind of informal chat is phenomenal, and creating that space for that through the CAST framework was just fantastic. And I know that we're going to take a lot of that information and the user testing and things that we went through with CAST and the different tools, and we're going to take all of that and think about it in terms of our digital things that we're using and what we're putting out to our clients, because they're the experts, and all of the things that we did, they just made it so easy. It was fantastic. So yeah, it's really good.
Wow, yes, this is great. Well, this definitely sounds like a very positive experience using the framework and make it work for you and for your organization and your team. And it's also very important to reemphasize the importance of peer learning. Like, you're not alone. People have the same challenges. Organizations have very similar challenges when it comes to develop their skills and get better fundraising results, deliver better services. So it's great to hear that. And obviously, part of this digital skills is using some tools. And I know for some of you that have joined us earlier today, we've been talking about artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence could be one of these digital tools that can perhaps help organizations, get better and get better, internally and in terms of process. And obviously, Kyle, coming from the platform Give and Gain, you've probably been talking with loads of charities at different stages on the digital journey. How are you exploring AI, and what opportunities do you think AI presents to the sector?
I mean, AI is obviously a really hotly discussed topic nowadays, both positive and negative. I tend to be a bit of an optimist, so I think the outlook for it is positive, especially for the charity sector. I mean, like, one of the big things that I think charities can benefit from with AI is essentially having access to almost like another staff member on your team that can do pretty much everything. I mean, whether it's writing your newsletters, at least getting a first draft, or doing data analysis, or doing your comms, like, there's so much that you can benefit from, especially when charities are kind of resource constrained. You have these incredibly powerful free tools just on hand at the click of a button. But I do think there are definitely going to be impacts that AI will have for the sector. I mean, we already live in a very data-centric world, and that is only going to increase with all these artificial intelligences being trained on public information. I mean, one thing I would kind of like put out as a challenge to charities is to go to ChatGPT, if they haven't already, and ask ChatGPT what it knows about their charity. So you can actually see what, as an experiment, to find out, like, what does it actually know about you? What has it been trained on based on what information is available? Because that will have implications long term around how people find you, find information. It also kind of asks questions like, do we need to be, as charities, more transparent so that information becomes available to be trained on, so people can know more about our charities? I mean, as a quick experiment prior to this, I went to ChatGPT and I said, find me 5 small charities in South Africa that have a good reputation that would be great to receive donations. And within a second, it chose 5. I don't know how it chose those 5, but they were all great charities. So it's really interesting to see, like, those kind of impacts as well. How will it help donors make decisions based on what data is available, to these systems? But then I think the last one I would just say is that, I mean, it's obvious, like for, especially from the space that Give and Gain is coming from with peer-to-peer fundraising, telling stories is so important. So for us, it's really about, helping people who are advocates for your cause tell good stories, and craft those narratives really well. So, I mean, I'll talk a bit later, a bit more about what we're doing with AI, but in terms of the sector and how I see it affect, I think those are probably where I think we'll see the biggest impact for charities, positive impact, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for this, Kyle. And obviously AI being one of the main tools and probably the one that loads of people are talking about right now. There's a lot of other digital tools, and it can mean really anything to a lot of things to lots of people. So I thought it'd be good to run a second very quick poll, which is basically which of these statements best correspond to your organization's use of digital. You know, um, is your organization struggling to use the basics? Or does your organization have some digital basics in place, such as social media or remote working? Third option is, you're developing our use of digital across your organization, but we don't have a strategy in place. Fourth option is digital is part of our strategy, but we're not embedded. And then the last one is digital is integral to organizational strategy, and it's part of everything we do. So again, people have, let's have a look. Yeah, people have already started voting, and actually we're using the cats. So you can do cats, a cautious, a concerned, or a this one. I think this is the right poll, is it? Let's have a look. No, use of digital. Oh, sorry. Hang on. Might have mixed the poll. But anyway, in either case, I think what we've seen from, talking with charities, and I bet, you, Yona, and Dan and Kyle talking with quite a lot of charities, is that there's stages from organizations' part where they are with their use of digital, and also based on which department is using digital. So I don't know, Yona, I don't know whether your organization has got loads of different departments, but for instance, would you say that in your organizations, the use of digital is the same across the board, or are some departments using it more than others?
I think it varies because we have so many different teams doing different things, and they support our clients and the people that use our charity in different ways. So they have different kind of things that they go to, and there are definitely people who are kind of more admin based and using things to create stories, as you say, and get information out there and report and tell everybody what we're doing. That digital is a huge important thing for them, but there's other people that are kind of boots on the ground and not as much time to kind of be online. But I definitely, regardless of where you work within the organization, it's a huge part of what we do, because everything is, reporting, everything is online really, and it's the most curious you can be, the more ways you can find things to do things easier. And I think that's the end goal at the end of the day, is to just make life a little bit easier. Yeah, I love that curious cat option. I think if everybody was just curious, because there's always new things, and AI is so exciting, and it's just, have a little bit of curiosity and see if it could do something for you, I suppose.
For you too, definitely. No, that's absolutely great. And apologies everyone. I think we may have muddled up the poll questions. But anyway, in either case, we know that people are curious and they're interested in digital, so they found the right place. I thought we could move over to, obviously, back to you, Kyle, because I know you started talking about mainly about AI, but I'm pretty sure that Give and Gain and obviously all of your experience working with organization, has given you plenty of examples to share. So how would you say Give and Gain equip charities and fundraisers with the latest tech to enhance their efforts? And can you share some specific examples or feature that charities are most excited by?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so just as a bit of like a backdrop to that, a lot of people may or may not have heard of Give and Gain because we're pretty new in the UK. But we've been around for just over 20 years. So we've got quite an extensive history in the space. And you know, for us, I mean, peer-to-peer fundraising is really the space that we play in. And I guess for most charities, it should be already quite apparent how important and powerful peer-to-peer fundraising is. We kind of have this joke where we say, you know, 1 + 1 is not 2, 1 + 1 is 11, and 1 + 1 is 111, because if you have access to 2 or 3 people in your network, you rather have access to a whole bunch of more people that could potentially be donors to your cause. So from our perspective, I mean, we're also a charity. A lot of people don't know that. And it's really important for us, for our mission, to really empower these charities and help them be most effective. And where we see that is through helping the fundraisers who are advocates or champions for your cause be successful. So we've recently undergone a whole rebrand of Give and Gain and a massive relaunch a few weeks back. And the latest version of Give and Gain is built on some of the latest technologies to the market, which means we can move really fast now. And that's super important for us to be able to be agile so that we can serve charities well. And if I had to kind of focus in on some of the functionality that we've released recently that's really important for charities and we've seen a lot of interest in, is split fundraising. I mean, that's not new, like as a concept to the UK market, but we know a lot of charities are looking for that functionality in a platform. And I mean, it's something that really benefits small charities, because what we see happening is you'll have a fundraiser who's passionate about 2 different charities, one being quite a big, reputable, well-known charity, and one being a smaller charity. And often they end up creating 2 different fundraising pages, but the very well-known charity gets kind of the large share of the donations just because it's more well-known. So when you have these single split fundraising pages, it allows especially smaller charities to benefit from having a single source that donors are coming to and having those donations in real time split between the charities as the fundraiser would like to see those donations split. We're pushing a lot more into real time as well. So that's something you're going to see coming to the platform soon, is the ability for fundraisers to interact in real time with donors. Because again, for us, it's really about helping that fundraiser tell a really powerful story for the causes that they like, love, and want to support. And ultimately, their ability to tell that story and engage with donors is paramount to them being able to raise the funds that they want. And then off the back of that, I mean, we've started implementing AI in as many places as we can throughout the platform. A big focus at the moment where we see kind of low-hanging fruit, I would say, is really around crafting stories. And so we're building in these like AI assistants when in places that the fundraisers can actually input text. So, I mean, it can be quite burdensome for people to write updates and write kind of stories around their fundraising pages. So with the help of AI, we're just making it easier for fundraisers to write good stories and take a lot of the burden off of actually crafting those narratives. So that's initially where you'll see things coming in. But I mean, obviously we're moving fast and we've got a lot on our horizon. So you'll start to see some other interesting ways that we'll implement AI in the coming year.
That sounds really really exciting. Well, thank you, Kaya. And you know, loads of what you said also relies on you know, having teams having more confidence to use these tools, you know, to be comfortable proposing you know, the sort of functionalities to their fundraisers, to their supporters, and obviously it would be interesting to hear, I guess, from Dan. I don't know if Dan can hear us. I see we may have lost him, but maybe he can hear us. We'll try. It'd be good to know from you, Dan, and obviously the sort of experience you have working with charities. You know, how CAS supports charities to develop their confidence and the digital agencies. Let's see if Dan can hear us.
Thank you, Lisa. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
yeah. We can hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you. So that's what matters.
Okay, well, you can, yes, sorry about the image, but one of the things I love about this panel is we're all charities. We're all trying to figure out how best to support one another. And there's something really important that I understand, which is about how we can kind of share the things that we're all working on to help others kind of make the most of what already exists, and then each contribute with a collective set of things. We've been able to do that for a few years. So that I'll put a set of links in the chat in a second But we've got all sorts of kind of resources you can access, such as the digital toolkit, which helps you go through the kind of process of thinking about how best to design services that use digital well. For grant seekers specifically, we have a tool called Grant Advisor, which is a way of providing anonymous feedback about grant seeking behaviour to help other grant seekers, but also to influence the practice of grant makers, so they can kind of be better in the processes and the ways in which they look to support the sector. We have other events like design hops, which help charities kind of explore digital processes for the first time. We're also a really proud member of the Catalyst network, and Catalyst is this growing network now of thousands of charities, hundreds of digital partners and agencies, all trying to figure out how best to use digital. And in there are things like the shared digital guides, which are a bit like recipes of how other charities are using digital in different ways, sometimes for really specific tasks, sometimes for really kind of big ones. Or digital candle, which is a way to have a conversation with an expert in any aspect of digital for an hour for free. I think they've got 500 different volunteers. And whether that's about how do we increase our visibility in search results, or how do we create a digital strategy, there's a whole bank of brilliant volunteers who are there to give you that advice. And I'll put all of these links in the chat, but there's a lot more. And I suppose that the main message is we're in a lovely position to be able to kind of create lots of kind of support around digital, but it's the contributions from Carl and Iona and clearly kind of Charity Digital who are also contributing. And the more we can share resources between each other and support one another, the most we can make out of the limited resources we have in our sector.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Dan. And I know you mentioned quite a few tools. That's very helpful. And actually going back to you, Yona, because as a charity and as a digital coach and champion, reflecting on your experience, why do you think it's important to build confidence and shifting mindsets and important to success?
For
And
sure.
what has helped you actually yourself?
So I think one of the most important things I've kind of learned about digital coaching and being a digital coach and kind of upskilling people is that there's the hard skills, right? That we learn tools, we learn how to use things like the tools that Dan mentioned, we learn how to be comfortable with those. But when those things change, it's like, oh no, now I have to learn a whole new thing. And kind of what I've learned is that the skills underneath, the soft skills, are almost the more important skills. So that kind of problem solving, the resilience, the understanding yourself and understanding what works for you is so important. And I think that ties into different tools, and I know we're talking specifically about kind of tools for helping with fundraising, in that there isn't always a right tool. We want things to be easy. We want someone to just hand us a tool and go, yes, this is great, use this, fantastic. But it does take time to work out what your needs are, I suppose. And that's, I mean, Dan could probably talk to you about this as well, because I've learned all of this from CAST. So I'm just reiterating what they've told me, and that it's all about understanding your needs and what you want. And does that tool work for you, or is it worth looking into something else? There isn't always a shortcut, I suppose. There are things that make your life easy, but you maybe need to put a little bit of work in it at the start and have that little bit of kind of hard work and discovery and curiosity to work out what works best for you. Yeah,
definitely, Yona. That's a really, I think that's almost the first point, is sit down with the team and understand what makes you curious in digital. Obviously, what are your pains, what is really annoying you on a day-to-day basis and taking loads of time, and then trying to identify where digital could accelerate, could boost things and save time. But yeah, I'll dive into questions, because we've had a couple, and it'd be great to hear from you, Yona, on the sort of tools or experience using tools that you could share with our attendees. So somebody's asked if we could specify the top digital elements that charities should be using. So perhaps you, from your experience, Yona, what are perhaps the categories or the digital elements you would advise?
Yeah, it's a very big question to answer, and Dan and Kyle can probably chip in as well. But it totally depends what what it is that you're using it for. I suppose, I mean, you've got your kind of internal communications, we've got things like Team, we've got things like Hubelo that we're using today that is brand new to me, and I'm obsessed. I think it's fantastic. I think it's revolutionized video calls. I love it. And there's other things like with Cast, when we were building the framework, I learned things, tools called Notion and Tally and so that I would never have needed otherwise. So it totally depends what the area is for the digital tool, I suppose. But my answer, I'll do the same answer for the last one. It's work out what works for you, work out your needs, and what fits in with that. I don't know if Dan or Kyle want to pitch in with other tools.
Pitch in, yeah. Mm-hmm. Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, and this kind of links in with the other question that's been asked about top uses for ChatGPT, because I would say AIs, these language generating AIs are probably one of the most important tools to start using as a charity, just because it can save you so much time and lift an immense load. So, I mean, I would say if I was you today, I would start using it for analyzing your data. Like, you can literally paste the CSV into ChatGPT and tell it find trends, or like analyze this information, and it will tell you like what trends it can find in the data. I would use it for newsletters. I would use it for email and social media comms, especially just to get like a first draft of something done, so that you don't have to spend 3 hours doing it. You can spend 45 minutes maybe. And also when it comes to trying to reach, let's say, donors in different continents, then you can take your message that's been really well crafted for the UK market, and you can say to ChatGPT, take this and optimize it for talking to a US audience, and it will rewrite it in a way that is more appropriate for that specific audience. So I think there's a lot of things you can benefit from using that tool really smartly and making it a part of what your day-to-day workflow looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yes, need to select, because there's a lot out there. There's a lot of tools. There's a lot of different ways you can use AI, for instance. It could be a little bit overwhelming, and hopefully, our conversation today has helped some of our attendees to help seeing clearer. But what is really important is to bring in back to your mission, back to what you want these digital tools and skills to help for. You might not need to learn how to code if you don't need to. There's loads of no-code platforms, for instance, that are available for charities. So it's really, really, really bringing it down to what you can do, what your teams can, the capabilities of your teams. I don't know how many of you in your team, Yona, but I suppose that you're not a massive charity with a big bunch of staff members. So it's also about prioritizing, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. It's priorities. We're, as you say, a small charity, and everybody does different things. I spoke a little bit earlier about how the teams differ so much and the roles differ so much. So one person's priority is totally different to the next person. So it's a challenge to find a middle ground and make those things important. But you can only encourage so much, I suppose, and you can offer the right tools and the right conversations. But it comes down to priorities. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, great. Well, this is all we'll have time for today. But thank you very much to you, Yona, Kyle, and Dan for sharing so much and so many good tips and a lot of resources. I know I could see in a chat that loads of people were enjoying seeing all these resources. Thank you very much to all three of you. We hope you found also, sharing tips and experience useful for each other.
Thanks for having us. It's great to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And then, if you have any questions, you can obviously reach out to Dan, Yona, and Kyle later today. I guess perhaps you can be found on LinkedIn. So if anyone would be interested in asking more precise questions, I'm pretty sure that all three of them would be happy to answer any questions. I know that obviously Given Gainer's got a virtual booth on our space, so they'll be also very happy to answer any questions and Cast as well. So hopefully everybody enjoyed. Thank you very much for your time, all of you three, for the rest of everyone. Our next session will be at 1:45 actually. 1:45 we'll hear a fundraising case study from a charity called Orsansa, and Julia, director, will walk us through her experience of navigating a very new fundraising landscape, COVID-19. So join us at 1:45. And thank you very much to all our panelists today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.